Hello, everybody. My name is James Hinchman, and over the course of this semester, I have been conducting a research project based on the premise of follow the thing. What it means to conduct research by following the thing is that a researcher selects a physical item that can not only be analyzed in regards to its material life cycle and uses, but also through the ways in which humans or even other species interact with it and build their perception of the given item through lived experience over time. For my project, I chose to follow fishing line. The reason that I chose to follow fishing line as the subject matter for this project is because my entire life I've been an avid fisherman and was even a member of my high school's bass fishing team in the Woodlands, Texas. As any avid fisherman will tell you, no angler ever wants to lose a fish, but quite frankly, however, it is inevitable at some point if you're fishing for a long enough period of time. As a result of the considerable amount of time I have spent as a fisherman, I've come to see more and more fishing-related waste and pollutants enter my local bodies of water. Once I found out we'd be given the opportunity to research a physical item, my mind immediately went to fishing line. This assignment has really prompted me to think critically about the actions that both anglers and fishing line manufacturers alike can implement in order to make fishing more sustainable. The two predominant methods for reducing the environmental impact of fishing in aquatic ecosystems are to A. Teach anglers responsible fishing practices, and B. Find ways to reuse the fishing line. I feel that the best approach to combating these issues associated with fishing in terms of pollution is to start by teaching fishermen responsible fishing practices. I personally am a catch and release fisherman, and during my time on our high school bass fishing team, our coach was able to teach us many of the ways in which fishermen can ensure little to no environmental footprint. And for this project, I was actually lucky enough to be able to reach out to my former fishing coach, who I'm going to continue to refer to as such in order to maintain his privacy. And I was actually able to interview him on some of the ways in which he believes that we can make the sport of fishing more sustainable. In addition to interviewing my former coach, I was also able to interview two small tackle store owners. One of the tackle store owners was the owner of a small fly fishing store, and the other a more general sporting goods store with a fishing section. One thing I found interesting about this is that while all three participants told me they had been fishing since they were young children, they all view what it means to fish and to be a fisherman very differently. When I interviewed my former coach, I found it interesting how he answered all of my questions almost entirely through the notion of sport fishing, and more specifically, tournament-style sport fishing. During fishing tournaments, some of the measures our team would take in order to protect both the fish and the environment included having more judges than we really needed, all of whom were taught proper fish handling techniques. This ensured that the fish were being handled with care and that they could be placed back into the water as quickly as possible after being weighed. Also, if a fish had to be out of water for an extended period of time, one of the ways we ensured that it had the greatest chance of survival was by reviving the fish. Reviving a fish is the process by which you slowly move it through the water in order to get oxygen through its gills, as is shown in this video I took. Once the fish bites down on your thumb, you know it has an optimal chance of survival, and you should free it. Additionally, we would have to debarb our hooks. This means that you use pliers and squeeze the prong that typically helps the hook stay in the fish's mouth down flush against the hook. What this does is, in the instance of a line break where the fish snaps the line and gets away with both the line and the hook not having a barb allows it to naturally fall out of the fish's mouth within a day or two, once again increasing its chances for survival. If you were caught not debarbing your hooks, it would result in a penalty and ultimate disqualification if repeated. Furthermore, since all of the anglers on the team wanted to be allowed back at the private ponds and lakes we were granted access to, if we found any trash while fishing related or not, we would pick it up in order to ensure we were allowed to return to the ponds and lakes we loved fishing at. Any responsible angler should always research the fish species they are targeting before fishing. This is because some different measures should be taken when handling the fish. One such example would be trout, for instance, where some species of trout cannot be picked up out of the water without wetting your hands first in order to protect their mucous membrane, which gives them their slimy texture. The techniques implemented by our bass fishing team for ensuring fish survival, however, are generally applicable to most aquatic ecosystems. Now that I've talked a little bit about some of the ways in which anglers can prevent fishing-related pollution and ghost fishing, which is the process by which any fish becomes entrapped or caught in various forms of fishing-related pollutants, most commonly fishing nets, I will address some of the ways in which fishing line can be recycled, but first, it's important to understand the different types of fishing line. According to the Sport Fishing magazine, there are three main types of fishing line: monofilament, fluorocarbon, and braid. Monofilament is the most common type of fishing line and is comprised of nylon-based polymers which are combined in order to make a single-strand copolymer. The various nylon-based polymers can be mixed at different ratios in order to give the fishing line specific desired qualities such as abrasion resistance, varying pound test, and transparency. Additionally, chemical dyes can be added in order to give the line a fluorescent color. Secondly, there is fluorocarbon. Fluorocarbon is made up of the compound polyvinylidene fluoride, which is another high-performance plastic polymer. Fluorocarbon typically has less give or stretch to it and is nearly invisible underwater due to the use of fluoride to refract UV rays. Lastly, there is braided line. Braided line is composed of polyethylene strands woven together in order to create a stronger singular line. When considering the intended purpose of fishing line, which is to withstand considerable amounts of force and remain durable, it is not surprising to see that there are quite a few uses for recycled fishing line. The most common type of fishing line that is used in recycled products is monofilament. This is because monofilament is simply comprised of nylon-based polymers and is the easiest to break down and reuse. When I called the owner of the sporting goods store that has a wide selection of fishing gear, I asked if he had heard of any uses for fishing line other than its intended purpose, or if he knew of any uses for recycled fishing line. The man responded by saying that a lot of people used fishing line to hang up their Christmas ornaments, and that when he was in school they used fishing line to cut clay for their pottery class. As for the recycled line, he said their store actually takes back used line, which is then sent out to be melted down and extruded into thicker diameters to be remade into fishing nets, which I believe to be a rather novel idea. When I asked the same question regarding unintended uses to the owner of a small fly fishing shop, he responded by saying, hanging things up. Once again, a rather typical use for fishing line outside of its intended purpose. The fly fishing store owner also explained that he believes every angler has the responsibility to keep our waterways clean, and that even something as small as letting your tag end of your line, which is the remainder of the line on the side of a knot that has to be cut, fall to the ground will still negatively impact the environment if you let it become a habit. In addition to fishing line's inherent versatility when it comes to household projects and hanging things up, there are also a number of unexpected uses for recycled fishing line. Fishing line can be woven together to create a net which is then placed on a slope. What this does is it increases the slope's resistance against mast wasting events and slope failure. Additionally, according to IOP Science, recycled fishing line is even being used in modern medicine in order to create artificial muscle actuators. In essence, what this is it allows people who suffer from muscle damage or who were born with muscle deformations to have artificial muscle actuators implanted, allowing them to maintain better control over their finite motor skills. While it's interesting to see the different applications for recycled fishing line, it is also interesting to compare the various perceptions of fishing line in my interview participants. Whereas my fishing coach views fishing as a large-scale sport, the sporting goods store owner saw fishing as a means of obtaining food, and the fly fisherman said he used fishing almost like meditation. Although fishing line has come a long way from deconstructing silkworm nests in acetic acid and weaving the resulting strands together, I feel it is my job as a young angler to continue to promote the learning of proper fishing techniques and encourage recycling of not just fishing line but rather all products.